Hey guys, I'm here to review Real Housewives of Potomac, Season 10, Episode 1. So this episode does start with a heavy focus on Karen. Of course, we know Karen had to serve a year in prison for the DUI crash. I believe Karen just recently got out, so I do expect her to be back on the next season. She might even be at the reunion. So just so y'all have the timeline, we're going back to 2 days after Karen got sentenced to jail. So obviously about a year ago, because like I said, now Karen is out. So Giselle is waiting for Ashley, and she's basically saying, of course, she said that Karen is in jail, but she feels like Karen has to take some accountability and have some consequences so that she doesn't have a fifth DUI because she has already had 4. So when Ashley came, she was telling Giselle how she recently met up with Stacy and their kids, and she basically was trying to give Stacy a chance to clear her name and clear the air about everything that happened at the last reunion, where TJ basically came out and said that him and Stacy never had a real relationship, and Stacy paid him to be on the show. From there, we see Wendy and Kay arriving to Giselle's house, and Kay was like, oh, you've been to Jizzy's house before, right? And Wendy was like, I've been outside, because remember before, Giselle didn't like Wendy, and she hosted an event, and she said that Wendy couldn't come inside. So they were sitting there waiting for Stacy, and then when Stacy pulled up, Giselle was like, why Stacy got the same car as you, Ashley? And Ashley said that Stacy said it's her loaner car because she's having a custom made one. Then Stacy comes walking up to Giselle's house burping, child. So when Stacy comes in, at first they kind of just continue to talk about Karen, and Wendy was saying even though her and Karen fell out and she feels like Karen is no longer her friend, at the core of her, Karen is someone who was once her friend, so she does feel bad for what Karen's going through. And Kay was like, yeah, I hope people realize this is not a Martha Stewart experience. Like, she's in state jail taking showers with other people. And then, of course, Giselle was just saying what she already said as far as still feeling like Karen did need to take some accountability because she did have 4 DUIs before. The ladies agreed, and then they started kind of laughing at some stuff that Karen said in her DUI video as far as her being Thomas Jefferson's concubine and all this stuff. So Ashley took that and was like, yeah, so what about those initials, Thomas Jefferson initials? What about the initials TJ? And looks at Stacy. And Ashley was basically like, yeah, so what's going on with you? Because the reunion happened. And Stacy was like, and I'm sitting here just like I did at the reunion, sitting in my truth. So Stacy claims she didn't pay TJ. She also claims that TJ wanted to come on the show and said that he didn't say that and he's remorseful and this is awful. Like, girl, it's on camera that he said it. They were backstage and recorded him on FaceTime with Eddie saying it. And Stacy was saying, she loved TJ enough that she stepped out with him even when she wasn't legally divorced. She wouldn't do that to get on a TV show or for a payday. And Kay was like, well, they did say you've been trying to get on the show for a long time. Is that not true? And Stacy was like, Kay, I've been on television for years. Because remember, Stacy was on QVC, the channel that you turn to where they just sell you a bunch of stuff. Then Stacy tried to say that Kay was being aggressive. And Kay was like, okay, I'm calling out your lies and now I'm aggressive. And Stacy was just saying she's not the first or last person in this group to be humiliated by a man. She's so hurt. And every time she comes around now, all the girls are going to do is question her. And Giselle was like, listen, this group is all about accountability. So from there, Stacy walked out and she was like, yeah, maybe I do need to reconsider being a part of this group. So once Stacy left, Giselle had some tea and basically said she was in LA. She went to a function. A woman came and sat down who's best friends with TJ, and she had all the receipts and showed the legal documents that TJ is suing Stacy right now. So what Stacy just said about him wanting to come on the show and retract his statement is a lie. And Giselle basically said that TJ is suing Stacy for 50% of her RHOP check. So then we cut to this scene and Stacy is sitting down for dinner with her ex-husband. And she basically says that after all of that she just went through with TJ, now her and her ex-husband are trying to work things out and they're reconnecting. I'm like, girl, please, you should have never brought TJ on the show. You just embarrassed yourself for nothing to get right back with your ex-husband. You could have avoided all of this drama and all of this dragging from the girls. And then I also feel like her and her ex-husband are just confusing their daughter because for a long time they were basically separated, but they hadn't filed. Like she said, they were sleeping in separate bedrooms, but they were still living in the same house with their daughter. And they hadn't told her that they were getting a divorce. Now they finally told her that they got a divorce and he's her ex-husband. And now you guys are reconnecting and trying it again. Like, y'all gonna really confuse the girl now. Anyway, from there, we cut to Kay at her new condo and her mom is there. And they're basically talking about Kay and Greg. We did see Kay and Greg go through some stuff on the last season. Kay did feel like he was a bit dismissive. She felt unsupported. He didn't like being filmed. And it kind of seemed like he really didn't even like her being on the show at all. So Kay says she ended up moving out and that was the end of her and Greg's relationship. But then when we see her and her mom sitting down, her mom was like, I'm proud of you for getting this space. But how was Jamaica? You were supposed to have a breakup and then you went to Jamaica with Greg. And Kay basically said, Greg realized that she was serious when she moved out and he called her and was like, do you want to go to Jamaica? They went to Jamaica. They had a great trip and it was like a reset. And she said, she feel like that reset did help her and Greg realize, like, okay, we love each other, so how can we meet in the middle? She said she's in therapy right now, and she's just working on trying to see what will make her and Greg happy and what they can do differently this time. I do feel like sometimes couples just don't need to live together. Like, I kind of learned that the hard way with my relationship. I don't tell y'all much about my personal life, but I've been with the same person for a long time. I'll leave it at that. And we have gone through a thing where we live together 24/7, and we kind of realized, like, no, we need to both have our own place, live close to each other, and we could be with each other almost every day at either one of our apartments. But when we need to take that space, when we are irritated with each other, we need to be able to take that space. We can't be suffocated and not have that option to get space or walk away from each other. And sometimes people need that. That might be the healthiest thing for them. So, people might judge it, but what works for them works for them. Her mom basically is totally against Greg at this point. She said, I don't feel like that relationship is good for you. I don't feel like it's healthy for you. I didn't like who you were in that season of your life. And Kay was like, but you guys did like Greg. Like, y'all looked at Greg like family. And Kay's mom said, but at the end of the day, I'm always going to put you first. I'm always going to want to protect you first. And certain stuff happened with you and Greg that I just don't look at him the same no more, basically. Now, y'all know Eddie has entered the field, and he has Happy Eddie, and he's expanding to New Jersey. So he was talking about that. Now, Wendy, I did see that news that came out about you and Eddie getting arrested for fraud, lying about a break-in, and then they see you on social media wearing all of the stuff that you claim you got stole. But I'm not going to drag you for that just yet. I'm going to just mention it so y'all know I'm aware of it. But we going to deal with that next season or at the reunion, because trust me, the ladies will be on her ass for it. From there, we cut to Ashley. She's going to this boutique. She's basically telling the lady at the boutique she's having a second bloom ball, and she basically said it's her divorce party. She's finally divorced. Her divorce is finalized after 3 long years. But like I said, she was only waiting to get that divorce because she was trying to make sure she got that check from Michael, right? That's her husband name? Ex-husband, whatever. So she had to make sure her negotiations was right so she could walk away with something. And she did walk away with $20 million. So I guess she did her big one. So Ashley invited Stacy to the boutique. She came, and Ashley was basically explaining that the first bloom was her marriage and kids, and this second bloom is basically her independence, her freedom, her getting a divorce. Stacy says she don't feel like divorce is something that should ever be celebrated, but to each his own. And Stacy also said her and Ashley are in 2 different lanes because it didn't take her 10 years to get divorced. So then her and Ashley start talking, and Ashley was basically saying, you got up and left when we were all at Giselle's house. I wish you hadn't. And Ashley basically goes on to tell Stacy what Giselle told all of the other ladies about how they were at an event. Somebody came and sat down, showed them all the legal documents of TJ suing Stacy, this, that, and the third, and basically saying that the person is a reputable actress who is telling them this stuff. So in my opinion, Stacy is deflecting. She's basically saying she's forgiven TJ. She don't really want to talk about it no more. She's in a great space in her life. And then Ashley says, okay, so are you actually divorced? Stacy says she is divorced, and Ashley says, no, that's public record, and it's not in any of the databases for the state of Virginia. The way these girls be digging into each other's lives is hilarious. Now, Stacy did eat Ashley up a little bit when she said, I don't know why Ashley Googling me. She need to be Googling a voice coach. Ashley basically said she don't like liars, and Stacy said, okay, so when you and your imaginary friend produce these documents that you claim you have showing TJ suing me, then me and you will rekindle our friendship. I don't know why Stacy doing that. You putting Ashley and Giselle to the test? Oh, trust me, they gonna bring them documents. So from there, Stacy walks out again, and Ashley was like, I don't know what Stacy's running from. I'm the one who should be running after she blew that hot ass breath in my face. Next, we see Giselle, and she just lounging around her house, laying all over the bed. And she basically just saying, at first when her kids left for college, she was kind of sad. She felt like she was going to be lonely. The house was going to be empty. But sooner than later, she learned to love it. And she actually loves having that peace, that quiet, and being able to just walk around naked and doing whatever she want to do. So then Giselle sits down and calls Ashley. And Ashley, of course, told Giselle about her meeting with Stacy and how Stacy was standing on the fact that her and her ex-husband are actually divorced. And Ashley was like, she's not admitting it, even though I told her there's nothing in the state of Virginia database. And she's not admitting to the situation with TJ, even though I told her that we saw legal documents. And Giselle was like, yeah, this girl is just a liar. And somebody who could just look at you and lie when there's all this evidence against them is a scary person. Next, we see Kay going to meet up with her friend Angel. Angel is a new cast member on the show. She is a main cast member. She does have a flute. Here she is. Kay said that her and Angel have been friends for about 20 years, since they were about 18. Kay has also been a business partner with Angel. She said Angel used to work at BET and would hire Kay. So they've known each other for a long time, and they've always had each other's back. And Angel said that the biggest misconception that people have of her is that she's a bitch, but she says she just has a resting bitch face. When you get to know her, she's really a girl's girl. So yeah, so far my first impressions of Angel are good. And Angel says she's born and raised in Maryland. She moved to Colorado with her husband when he went to play for the Denver Broncos, but he's retired now, so they returned back to her hometown. So as we heard her and Kay talking, we just got to know a little bit more about Angel. She said when her mom passed, she really put her heart and soul into this business with her husband, and she basically does these luxurious outdoor experiences in Colorado, and she's trying to bring that to Maryland. She said it's a very healing experience. It's like catharsis. And I've heard of that, like people going camping or just some people just go to the woods and scream, and that's like catharsis, and that's them being one with nature and letting stuff out. So for people who that works for, that's a great business idea, and I think it could be successful in a place like Maryland, where it's similar to Colorado. You have a lot of woods, you have a lot of green space. So from there, Angel asks Kate, like, what's the tea? I haven't been here in a long time. Tell me about the social landscape. Like, who's who? So Kay was telling Angel that Giselle is really cool. They've built a good relationship. And then she was like, and then there's Ashley. And before she even got to say anything about Ashley, Angel said, Ashley was my bottle girl before at L2. So I think she's saying that Ashley used to work for her. If not, she's saying that Ashley just was her bartender before, like, like her waitress before. And then Angel said her and Wendy went to the same college. She said that Wendy was roommates with her like college big sister, but Wendy is a couple years older than her, so it was like when she was a freshman, Wendy was a senior. So they barely crossed paths like that. But she does remember her because of the connection to the girl who was like her college big sister. And Kay was basically saying that she's been feeling a lot of microaggressions from Wendy. And she was trying to explain it to Angel. Angel was telling her that she understood. I don't really understand where Kay is coming from with this issue that she's trying to have with Wendy. We're going to get more into it later in the episode, but to me, it's BS. But overall, Kay said that there's been multiple times on and off camera where she's felt like Wendy has been dismissive. And that makes her character a little bit questionable because she feels like Wendy isn't the same person consistently. And Angel was basically like, I feel like you should just talk to Wendy and ask her, and Kay said that she definitely is. From there, we see Ashley pulling up to her second Bloom ball, so she's preparing for the day. And Wendy, Stacy, and Giselle are all saying they're confused at what a second Bloom is. Kay and Angel are on their way, and Kay is saying, she does have some stuff to address with Wendy, and she hopes that Wendy receives it well. Giselle is also walking up with her friend Tia. Tia is also a new cast member on the show who is getting a flute. I have pretty good first impressions of Tia as well from this first episode. Her accent is fun, so I'll enjoy hearing her throughout this season. And yeah, we'll just have to see, how Tia and Angel either grow positively or negatively on me. But Giselle said that the main thing her and Tia have bonded over is raising twins. And Tia is from London, but her family is a part of the royal family in Nigeria. When Giselle and Tia go inside, they see Charisse. I always love to see Charisse. So Stacy arrives and she says that even though her and Ashley aren't really getting along right now, she's still going to show up for Ashley and show Ashley that she's really a friend, and hopefully they can reset and take a step forward. When Stacy came inside, I guess that Kay felt like Stacy didn't address her quick enough. So she was kind of like, hi, Stacy. Hi, Stacy. Then Wendy comes in, and when she goes down the line and she sees Angel, she has a reaction like she kind of knows her. And in her confessional, she said, it's a familiar face. So yay. But then when the producers asked, do you remember Angel while you were at Temple University? Wendy goes, no, I do not know her. But like I said, a familiar face. Wendy said familiar face, but we were not in the same circle. From there, they welcome Ashley out for her second Bloom party, and they basically say, welcome Duchess Darby. And everybody was laughing, like, since when is she a Duchess? And Angel had a little shady comment. She said, from bottle girl to Duchess, I love a good come-up story. So Ashley comes out with her dress, has her moment, whatever. So from there, we see Wendy, Kay, and Giselle sitting down. They start to talk. And it was so weird because Giselle and Wendy was already talking when Kay came and sat down. So Wendy kind of just continued talking to Giselle because they was already mid-conversation. And Kay was like, oh, we're not going to do that. That's a little rude. You're not going to sit there and act like I'm not sitting here. And Wendy was like, I'm not trying to be rude to you. Me and Giselle was already talking. Like I said, I don't know. It just seemed like Kay is looking for a problem with Wendy this season, and I don't really know why. Hopefully we can understand it a little bit better later on in the season, because I'm not going to lie, Wendy is definitely very shady. So maybe we'll get it later, but right now I just don't. So from there, Kay was basically like, Giselle, I want to chat with Wendy, okay? And Giselle was like, okay, no problem. I'm coming back. So Giselle left. So Kay starts the conversation by saying, I've been taken aback by some of your actions, and some things that you do in this friendship just come off a little bit phony to me. So Wendy's looking a little confused, and Kay was basically saying the energy that you have when me and you are on the phone and there's no cameras involved is not the same energy that you meet me with when we're outside. So Kay gave an example, and she was like, there was an event and I asked you, were you going to be at the event? You said yes. And Wendy was like, okay. And Kay was like, yes. And I shared with you that I was going to be sponsoring the event. When I got to the event, I found out that you were a speaker there. Why didn't you tell me that? And Wendy was like, okay, so you're mad that I didn't tell you I was going to be a speaker there and I just told you that I would be attending? Like, is that something for you to pick at and feel a way about? And Wendy basically said, you told me you were sponsoring and I hyped you up. Like, yes, you're a sponsor. You ate that up. Why would I take that moment to then say, oh, by the way, I'm speaking there? Like, I wasn't trying to take away from your moment and I just hyped you up. So Kay was like, okay, fine, I'll take that. But let me bring up something else. So then she says that when she got to the event, Wendy was on stage and Wendy never spoke to her. And Wendy was like, how was I supposed to wave at you while I'm speaking on stage? Or even if I'm just sitting on the stage, I'm a part of a panel. Why would I distract the crowd and wave at you? That's not professional. And Wendy said, me and you just don't have the same idea of what we would do at a professional event like that, whether we're friends or not. Then Kay brings up another thing. She said they went to the red carpet at the NAACP Awards, and the first thing Wendy said was, did you do your own makeup? They showed the makeup. The makeup was a mess. So I feel like Kay was already insecure about the makeup and probably didn't like the makeup herself. So when Wendy asked her that, it triggered her. Wendy basically says she feel like Kay is reading into a lot of things, which I agree with. And Kay says she feel like she don't know if Wendy is able to be a genuine friend. From there, we cut to a conversation with Ashley, Stacy, Angel, and Giselle. So Giselle came over and she told Angel, like, I'm glad you got to meet Ashley. And Angel was like, yeah, she's really sweet. And Giselle said, yeah, until she's not. And Ashley said, the only time I'm not sweet is if you lie to me. And Stacy said, indeed, indeed. And Ashley was like, exactly. If you lie to me, that's the problem. I don't care if your breath stinks, which you know some people have an issue with. So again, alluding to the fact that Stacy's breath stinks. So Stacy blew her breath in Ashley's face, and Ashley was like, stop, Stacy, stop. And Giselle was like, there's a lot of bacteria in there. I think it's internal. Like, whatever that smell is coming from the bottom of her stomach. And even Angel said, I don't know what was going on, but her mouth definitely greeted me before she greeted me. So from there, Stacy was like, you know what, Ashley, let me talk to you by yourself, because whenever it's you and Giselle, it's always a tag team thing. And Giselle was like, girl, shut the F up. That's a lie. That's a lie. So when Ashley and Stacy walked away, Giselle was like, we trying to get to know her, but she always lying. And yes, her breath does stink. And Angel was like, yeah, I'm not going to lie. It was a little tart. So Stacy was basically telling Ashley, I hope you can appreciate that I showed up today, even though you're accusing me of things that I know aren't true. And Ashley was like, listen, something smells fishy with you, but still, I'm trying to move past it. So Ashley's whole thing is, why are you lying to us? Why are you hiding things? And Stacy's whole thing is, why do you have to be so messy? Why do you have to be in my business? So at this point, everybody's seeing what's going on with them and they're causing a crowd. Stacy had bought this guy who's her best friend. So he was there. The girl that Giselle bought, Tia, was there. And they're all kind of trying to see, like, why are Ashley and Stacy arguing like this? So Tia and Stacy's friend were basically like, what do you need to see for y'all to end this drama? Do you need to see her divorce papers? And Ashley basically said yes. And the episode basically ended with Ashley telling Stacy, you came into this group lying and misrepresenting yourself. And she had her finger like this. And Stacy was like, get your finger out my face. She started calling Ashley the devil. And the episode ended there. So we get the 2-minute trailer for what's going to happen this season. Honestly, it didn't look like too much to me. But the main thing that stuck out to me is that Monique Samuels will be making her return. And apparently at some point in the season, they're going to say that Stacy is trying to talk to Monique's ex-husband. Because the guy who she used to be with on the show, who was her husband, I guess they got a divorce now. And Stacy's trying to talk to him. So we'll see how that goes. But okay, guys, that's my Real Housewives of Potomac Season 10, Episode 1 review/recap. If you're watching me on TikTok, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube. And if you're watching me on YouTube, make sure you follow me on TikTok. I'll see y'all later. Bye.